Imagine this. You're on the phone with a kidnapper who's holding someone's child at gunpoint. One wrong word, and a life is over. Now take that same pressure, that same intensity, because whether you realize it or not, you face negotiations every single day. From your salary, to buying a car, to convincing your partner where to go for dinner. What if the difference between winning and losing wasn't compromise, but mastering the psychology of human connection? This isn't theory. This is battlefield-tested wisdom from a man who negotiated with terrorists for the FBI. And it might just change the way you talk, persuade, and live forever.
Hello, everyone. Hi, all. I'm Emma, and I'm incredibly excited today to dive into a topic that, well, it truly impacts every single one of us, every single day. Welcome to BookPodCastZone.
And I'm John. You've certainly set the stage perfectly there. Today, you were joining us for, I think, a really incredible deep dive into the art and the science of negotiation. And we're drawing from the powerful insights of Christopher Voss and Tahl. Yeah, our mission today, really, is to unpack the core principles from Never Split the Difference, which is a book that just radically flips traditional negotiation on its head.
It really does.
We're moving beyond those typical, win-win cliches.
Yeah.
We want to explore how a really profound understanding of human psychology, our emotions, even those subtle linguistic cues, how all that can transform pretty much any interaction. You'll learn how to apply these FBI-tested tactics, not just in those, crazy high-stakes life or death moments, but right in your everyday life.
Right.
Whether you're sealing a deal, navigating a tricky team project, or, like we said, just deciding on dinner plans.
And what we'll be doing throughout this deep dive is breaking down each chapter of Voss's work. We'll try to connect the dots between these really intense, real-life FBI hostage situations and the kind of negotiations you face constantly. We'll explore a bit of the historical evolution of these techniques, analyze precisely why they work on a psychological level, and we'll provide some current practical examples, maybe from 2025, quite a few right here in the U.S.
Okay.
And as we go, maybe consider this. What if the biggest obstacles in your negotiations aren't really the external circumstances, but internal ones? Like maybe a fundamental misunderstanding of how the human mind really works.
That's a great point. We're pulling these incredible insights, as you said, from Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, which he co-authored with Tahl. And it distills decades of Voss's, really high-stakes life-or-death negotiation experience into actionable, practical strategies.
Exactly. It's not just theory.
No, not at all. It's a masterclass in reading people, de-escalating tension, and ultimately getting what you want without feeling like you've compromised your integrity or, your core goals. So let's begin the journey.
Let's dive in.
Okay, Chapter 1. The New Rules Emotions Rule the Day. Picture this. It's the 1990s. A bank robbery in Brooklyn escalates into this just terrifying hostage situation. You've got hostages trapped. The air is thick with fear, uncertainty, and the old school tactics. Those rigid, logic-only approaches from maybe the 70s, which often relied on brute force or just basic swaps.
Right, quid pro quo.
They simply aren't working. And this is where Christopher Voss, who was an FBI rising star at the time, steps onto the scene, ready to fundamentally flip the script on how these situations are handled.
And this opening scene, it really sets the tone, doesn't it, for how differently Voss approaches negotiation. It's not about the spreadsheets or the rational arguments alone. It's about that volatile, unpredictable human element that's always at play.
Right. And Voss and Raz, they immediately challenge that conventional wisdom that negotiation is purely rational, purely about finding some neat win-win solution.
Yeah, that whole idea gets thrown out pretty quick.
Instead, they reveal that it's all about emotions.
Yeah.
Our gut feelings, often subconscious, they're the true drivers of our decisions.
Absolutely. Ignoring emotions in negotiation is like trying to drive a car without fuel. You might have the best map, the most logical route planned out,
Right.
but you simply won't move forward. Think about it. How many times have you rationally decided something, only to realize later that some underlying feeling, maybe a fear, a desire for approval, maybe an ego boost, was really pulling the strings?
All the time.
Exactly. And they really dig into this fallacy of splitting the difference. Why does that often leave both parties feeling, shortchanged or unsatisfied? Because, Voss argues, it's typically kind of a lazy or uncreative approach that just avoids the deeper, more fundamental issues.
Yeah, you're not solving the core problem.
No, you're just cutting it in half, basically, hoping the pain isn't too severe for either side.
Right.
Consider a U.S. couple buying a car. Let's say one desperately wants a rugged pickup truck for their, outdoorsy lifestyle. The other wants a sleek, fuel-efficient sedan for city commuting. Now, splitting the difference might mean they end up with what? A minivan?
Like the
It's
classic compromise.
right, but it satisfies neither of their original desires or, crucially, their emotional needs. One person sought utility and maybe freedom, the other comfort and economy. The minivan is a compromise, sure, but it leaves both feeling like they didn't quite get what they truly wanted.
And probably resenting it later.
Probably, because those emotional drivers, they were never fully addressed or understood in the negotiation.
And the history here is really interesting, too. The evolution of negotiation itself gives crucial context for Voss's approach. If you look way back, ancient times, like Roman Empire sieges, negotiation was often just about brute power and military might.
Right, raw force.
Yeah, less talking, more overwhelming force, siege engines, maybe starvation tactics. It was very zero-sum. Surrender or die.
Not much room for empathy there.
Not much. But then you see this modern shift, tragically kind of catalyzed by the 1972 Munich Olympics, where those terrible failures in communication and strategy led to horrific outcomes for the Israeli athletes.
A watershed moment.
Absolutely. That event shocked the world and became this pivotal point, sparking a dramatic shift, especially in the FBI, towards psychology over pure force.
It had to change.
It wasn't just about saving lives anymore, though that was primary, of course. It was about understanding the human mind under extreme pressure, recognizing that a gun in hand doesn't just negate the deeply human fears, the desires, the irrationalities of the person holding it.
Right, they're still human.
Exactly. It highlighted that even in the most extreme circumstances, a psychological approach could yield much better results than purely tactical ones.
So why do emotions consistently dominate, even in what seems like a perfectly logical discussion? I mean, we see this all the time.
We do.
Voss emphasizes that humans are not, in fact, rational actors first. We are deeply emotional beings who then rationalize our decisions after the fact.
Okay, that's key. Feel first, think second.
Pretty much. Understanding this is really the foundational first step in any successful negotiation. Our emotions act as this powerful filter through which all logic gets processed. If someone is fearful or angry or feeling disrespected, no amount of perfectly presented data or logical arguments is going to penetrate that emotional wall.
Their logical brain is just offline.
Or at least heavily biased by whatever they're feeling right then. Consider a 2025 salary negotiation, maybe here in the US, with all the economic ups and downs we've seen.
Yeah, always relevant.
If you focus only on your desired number and your qualifications, right, your logical case, without acknowledging the company's potential fear of a looming recession or their hope for a record-breaking quarter, or maybe even your manager's personal stress over budget cuts.
Right, the human context.
You're missing crucial emotional leverage. You might present impeccable reasons for your raise, logically sound reasons, but if the company's leadership feels insecure about its financial future, those logical arguments will likely just hit a brick wall of fear and caution.
So, okay, understanding this is one thing. How does it translate into action for you listening right now?
Well, Voss stresses active listening. That's your ultimate secret weapon.
Okay.
He says it builds rapport faster than any spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation ever could.
Faster than data.
Faster than data, because it connects on a human level first. It's not just about hearing the words someone says. It's about understanding the underlying message, the emotions driving those words, the unspoken needs, the true motivations behind what they're saying.
And active listening, it goes way beyond just, waiting politely for your turn to speak.
Oh, absolutely. It involves genuine engagement. It involves reading nonverbal cues even on a video call, right? You can pick up on tone, pace, hesitations, subtle shifts in energy.
Sure.
And it requires a profound desire to truly comprehend the other side's perspective, not just to gather ammo for your rebuttal.
Right, not just waiting to pounce.
Exactly. But to build a mental map of their internal world. What are their priorities? What are their fears that they're maybe not saying out loud? That's where the real power lies, uncovering that unspoken narrative.
Let's take an example. Imagine, say, a heated remote team huddle in a U.S.-based tech company. They're stressed about project deadlines. Maybe they're using some advanced AI project management tools that are adding pressure.
Okay, very 2025.
Right. If you just focus on the task list and the technical metrics, you might completely miss the real issue bubbling under the surface. But if you tune into the frustrations, you hear the sighs, the hurried tones, maybe those sudden silences, you can reveal hidden needs, like maybe burnout from the relentless pace of these AI-driven workloads.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Or maybe a lack of clarity on new project requirements because the tech is so new and changing so fast, and people feel like they can't keep up.
Okay.
By actively listening to those frustrations, those emotional signals, you can turn potential blow-ups into breakthroughs. Well, maybe you suggest a reprioritization. Maybe you adjust how the AI is used so it supports the team instead of feeling like it dictates everything. Maybe you find new resources to alleviate specific pressures.
Instead of just pushing for the original deadline.
Exactly. You move from conflict to actual collaborative problem solving because you understood the real problem, the emotional one.
Ultimately, Voss and Raz are really urging you, the listener, to embrace the human side of every single interaction.
Right.
Negotiations aren't battles to be won.
Right.
They're more like these intricate dances where empathy leads the way. It's about understanding, not just dictating terms.
It's about recognizing the other person's humanity, their fears, their hopes, their biases, and working with that, rather than trying to just override it with logic or force.
And this mindset, it can fundamentally change not just your professional dealings, but your personal relationships too. I mean, what if applying these rules to a disagreement with a family member?
Yeah.
What if it could lead to a deeper connection instead of just, a temporary truce where nobody's really happy?
Instead of fighting over who's right about something.
Exactly. You'd be seeking to understand the underlying emotions and needs first. And that's a much more powerful path to genuine and lasting resolution.
So, the big takeaway from Chapter 1. The next time you find yourself in any negotiation, big or small, remember this. It's not about splitting the difference. It's about understanding the emotional landscape first, and then leveraging that understanding with genuine empathy. All right, if you're finding this useful, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates. We'll continue this fascinating journey into the art of negotiation right after this quick break.
Okay, Chapter 2. B, a mirror the power of reflection. The tension builds in a Harlem apartment. This is early 2000s. A desperate fugitive has innocence at gunpoint.
Intense.
Very. And the FBI negotiators, Voss included, they aren't charging in with demands. They're not trying to logically persuade him out of it.
What are they doing?
Instead, they're doing something incredibly subtle, yet remarkably powerful. They're echoing back the criminal's own words, just drawing out more information, like pulling a thread from a sweater, bit by bit.
Yeah.
And this dramatic scene really highlights the deceptive simplicity and, frankly, the profound effectiveness of this core technique Voss calls mirroring.
Mirroring. Okay, so what is it exactly? It sounds simple.
It is incredibly simple, yet astonishingly effective. You basically just repeat the last few words, maybe 1 to 3 critical words, that someone has just said.
The last few words, that's it.
That's often it. It might sound almost childish, maybe even a bit awkward at first.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it keeps them talking. It encourages them to dig deeper into their own thoughts. And often, without even realizing it, they start to uncover their real motives or their deeper concerns for you.
Wow, so it prompts them to reveal more.
Exactly. It's kind of dramatic, like a slow burn suspense where the subtle silence after your echo gently forces revelations. When you mirror, you're essentially communicating, I hear you. I'm processing what you just said. Tell me more.
Okay.
But you're doing it in a way that doesn't feel like an interrogation or a challenge. It feels like you're genuinely engaged and just encouraging them to elaborate.
And they usually do.
They almost always do, because humans have this inherent need to feel understood and also just to complete their thoughts once they've started.
That makes sense. And this wasn't just pulled out of thin air.
Yeah.
Right. There's a history to this.
No, not at all. It has deep roots. It ties back to those FBI training revolutions in the 1980s, particularly after major sieges like Waco, where the traditional, more confrontational methods proved, well, disastrous.
Right.
Mirroring didn't just appear. It emerged from established therapy techniques, specifically from active and reflective listening used in counseling for decades.
Ah, from therapy. Okay.
Yeah. These methods are designed to de-escalate situations and encourage self-exploration without confrontation. In a therapeutic context, repeating a client's words helps them feel profoundly heard, understood, and it encourages them to explore their feelings further. The FBI brilliantly adapted this for these high-stakes, acute situations where those traditional confrontational tactics often failed miserably. It's about building a bridge, not a wall, even with someone you perceive as an adversary.
So it taps into that fundamental human need to be heard.
Exactly, even by an enemy. When someone feels acknowledged, even in that simple way, their defenses naturally start to lower and they become just a bit more open.
Okay, so this incredibly simple technique works surprisingly well. Why? How does it actually benefit you in the negotiation?
Well, Voss and Roz give some insightful analysis. First, as we said, it makes the other person feel profoundly heard and understood. That creates an immediate, almost subconscious bond.
Okay, rapport building.
Definitely. Second, and this is critical, it buys you invaluable time in high-stakes spots. Time to think, time to assess the new information they just gave you, time to strategize your next move without having to speak immediately.
Ah, buying time. That's smart.
It is. When you simply echo their last few words, it takes minimal mental effort on your part, but it often produces a significant output from them.
Right.
For anyone listening to an audiobook, imagine the narrator pausing dramatically after a mirror, letting the lesson sink in. That pause is powerful. It creates a vacuum.
A vacuum.
Yeah, a conversational vacuum that the other person instinctively feels compelled to fill, and in fleeing it, they reveal more information than direct questions might ever get you.
Okay, but how you say the mirror must matter, right? It's not just the words.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Delivery is everything. Voss advocates for using what he calls a calm, reassuring, almost late-night DJ voice.
Chuckle slightly. Late night DJ voice. Okay.
Yeah, think smooth, downward inflecting, soothing. This tone helps soothe the nerves on the other side. It projects composure on your side, and it builds trust, even in the most volatile situations.
But it's about projecting calm authority.
Exactly. Without being aggressive or overly emotional yourself, when you speak in this calm, measured way, it naturally counters the other person's heightened emotions without directly challenging them. It's like placing a soft blanket over a sharp edge.
Nice analogy.
It makes the interaction less abrasive and much more conducive to open, honest communication. This subtle vocal modulation disarms tension and signals that you are in control of your own emotions, which is incredibly powerful in itself.
And you mentioned pauses. So you mirror, then pause.
Yes. For maximum impact, combine your mirrors with those strategic pauses. After you echo their words, just wait, calmly.
Let the silence hang a bit.
Let it hang. The silence creates that vacuum we talked about, the one the other person instinctively feels compelled to fill. They'll elaborate, they'll clarify, they'll reveal more details about their thoughts, feelings, or their situation.
It's not about making it awkward, though.
No, it's intentional silence. It subtly pressures them to continue the conversation on their terms, but ultimately to your benefit because you're gathering information.
Okay, let's try a U.S. example for 2025. Say, a freelance gig negotiation over Zoom.
Okay.
A potential client for a U.S.-based project said something like, the budget's tight for this marketing campaign.
Common phrase?
Very. You could mirror with just tight,
Mm-hmm.
then you pause. Maintain that active listening look, Watch them. They might just spill details about recent funding cuts because of, say, unexpected market dips or new regulations impacting their sector that aid into their budget.
Right, you get the why behind the statement.
Exactly. And this immediate revelation opens doors to creative solutions you might not have even considered. Maybe phased payments work now. Maybe a modular project approach fits their newly revealed constraints. Maybe you can help them find grant opportunities they didn't know about.
So you're not just accepting a lower fee.
No, you're moving beyond just haggling on price. You're helping them solve their underlying problem, which instantly makes you seem like an invaluable partner, not just a vendor.
Ultimately, then, mirroring is really about extracting that unspoken information. It's about getting past those surface-level statements to the underlying concerns, the motivations, the hidden anxieties.
Yeah.
It's a gentle, non-confrontational form of intelligence gathering that doesn't feel like an interrogation at all.
It lets you gather crucial insights without giving away your own hand or revealing your strategy too early.
Precisely. And this technique can be incredibly powerful in everyday U.S. family dynamics, too. Think about dealing with a teenager who's reluctant to share after a tough day at school.
Okay.
Instead of the direct, what's wrong now, which often gets a shrug.
Or fine.
Right, or fine. You could just gently say, you're feeling frustrated about school, and then pause. That mirror validates their likely feeling, inviting them to elaborate without pressure. It often leads to a much deeper, more honest conversation.
That's really applicable. Okay, fascinating stuff on mirroring. If you're finding these insights as powerful as we are, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share this deep dive with someone who needs to hear it. Coming up next, we'll learn how to label emotions effectively without taking them on yourself. All right, Chapter 3. Don't feel their pain. Label it the art of validation. Voss recalls this terrifying Philippine jungle kidnapping early 2000s again, Emotions are just running wild on both sides. A single wrong word could literally end lives.
Unbelievably high stakes.
Absolutely. And instead of blindly sympathizing and getting caught up in the emotional whirlwind himself, he does something profoundly counterintuitive.
What's that?
He names the fear. He says directly to the captor something like, "It sounds like you're scared of losing control."
Wow, that takes guts.
It does. And Boom Voss says the tension visibly eased in that moment. This dramatic example really shows the incredible, almost magical power of what he calls emotional validation through labeling.
Yeah, labeling. Voss and Raz provide this gripping lesson on it. It's where you voice the other side's emotions, but crucially, not to agree with their actions or their demands.
Right, you're not saying they're justified.
No, you're simply validating the feeling itself. You acknowledge what they're feeling without getting sucked into their emotional state yourself or allowing it to cloud your own judgment.
So you stay objective.
Exactly. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful way to disarm someone. When an individual is in the grip of a strong emotion, anger, fear, frustration, anxiety, they often feel misunderstood and isolated. By accurately naming their emotion, you show them you understand what they are experiencing, and that immediate recognition can significantly de-escalate their emotional state. It creates an opening for them to actually listen to you, maybe for the first time. It's the first step towards rational engagement.
And this technique, like mirroring,
Yeah.
it also didn't just appear out of thin air, right? It built on earlier shifts.
Correct. It builds on those significant historical shifts in the 1990s when the FBI, after experiencing those costly failures in purely rational, demand-based talks,
Right, like we discussed.
they began integrating emotional intelligence much more systematically into their negotiation strategies. It was heavily inspired by counseling methods that gained prominence during the 1970s mental health boom.
Ah, counseling again.
Yeah, recognizing that emotions, not just logic, are the primary drivers of human behavior. In the past, the focus might have been on simply making demands or presenting cold facts, but those failures demonstrated that without addressing the emotional core, those demands often fell on deaf ears or, worse, met with explosive resistance.
So it required a real cultural change within law enforcement.
A huge cultural change, moving from an enforcement-first mindset to a psychological understanding that prioritizes de-escalation through genuine, validated empathy.
So how does labeling work to diffuse negativity? Why is it so effective?
Ultimately, labeling skillfully diffuses negativity because it creates connection. By showing the other person that you understand what they're feeling, even if you completely disagree with their reasoning or their actions, you begin to turn an adversary into an ally, or at least someone significantly less hostile.
You build a bridge.
You build a bridge. It creates a human connection, a moment of shared understanding. It's almost like a cliffhanger in a story where labeling flips the script mid-scene, allowing a new narrative to begin, one where collaboration, or at least constructive communication, becomes possible.
That's like a psychological pressure release valve.
That's a great way to put it. Once an intense emotion is named and acknowledged, its raw intensity often lessens. It gives both parties more room to think clearly, move past that emotional hurdle, and engage rationally.
Okay, so for us listening, how do we actually do this? How do we phrase these labels effectively?
Great question. The phrasing is key. Voss strongly suggests starting with tentative language like "it seems like" or "it sounds like,"
Why tentative?
to avoid blame or making absolute statements. This gentle approach gives them space to correct you if you're wrong, which, by the way, is still valuable engagement because they're clarifying their feelings for you.
Oh, okay.
And if you're right, it feels incredibly validating and builds immediate rapport. The importance of tentative language, it sounds like, versus definitive statements, "you are angry, you are upset," cannot be overstated.
Why is you angry bad?
Definitive language can feel confrontational, like you're telling them how they feel or diagnosing them, which can immediately trigger defensiveness. It feels like an accusation.
Right.
Tentative language, however, invites correction and dialogue. It empowers them to either confirm your understanding or clarify it, which deepens the connection and their feeling of being truly heard.
Let's try another 2025 U.S. example, maybe a corporate merger situation, which can be really stressful, say amid tech layoffs in Silicon Valley.
Okay, lots of anxiety there.
Exactly. You notice a colleague is maybe unusually withdrawn or irritable, or perhaps making snarky comments in meetings. Instead of reacting to their mood, or just ignoring it and hoping it goes away.
Which often makes it worse.
Right. You could approach them calmly, maybe privately, and say something like, "Hey, it seems like this merger and all the changes are overwhelming for you right now."
Gentle, tentative.
Exactly. This label, delivered calmly and with genuine concern, can uncover their real issues. Maybe it's deep job security fears. Maybe worries about their team's future. Maybe anxiety about adapting to new AI-driven tech they feel unprepared for. Or even concern for friends who've already been laid off.
Thus, you get to the root cause.
Yes, by validating their emotion, you pave the way for smoother integration. You can offer reassurance, point them to resources, or suggest solutions they actually need, rather than letting those unaddressed fears fester and silently disrupt team cohesion and productivity.
And Voss makes this important distinction between empathy and sympathy, right?
He does. It's crucial here. Labeling is pure empathy. Understanding someone's emotions without necessarily agreeing with their reasoning or taking on the emotion yourself.
You understand with them, not feel for them.
Exactly. It's vital for maintaining your objectivity while still connecting on a human level. Sympathy, on the other hand, is feeling for someone, often tinged with pity, and it can lead you to lose your own position, become overly emotional yourself, or compromise way too much just to make them feel better.
So empathy keeps you grounded.
It keeps you grounded while building the bridge. Think of a parent dealing with a toddler's tantrum over a toy. Instead of giving in, sympathy maybe, the parent might say, it sounds like you're really frustrated because you can't have that toy right now.
Acknowledging the feeling.
Right. It acknowledges the child's emotion without giving in to the demand or becoming overwhelmed by the child's distress. This allows the parent to maintain control and guide the situation constructively. Empathy in action. Okay, we're really getting into the toolbox now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive if you're finding it valuable. Up next, we'll discover why aiming for yes can actually be a trap, and why mastering no might be your greatest ally in negotiation.
All right, Chapter 4. Beware, yes, master, no. The power of saying no? This one really flips common negotiation advice.
It does. The drama peaks here in a Washington, D.C. bank heist scenario Voss describes. In this incredibly tense situation, getting a quick yes from the perpetrator feels less like a victory and more like, well, a trap.
A trap. How so?
Because a hasty yes could just be politeness, maybe, or a superficial agreement just to get the negotiator off their back for a moment without any real commitment or intention to follow through.
Ah, the fake yes.
Exactly. Voss, however, pushes back gently. He deliberately tries to get the robber to clarify his true wants, often by skillfully inviting a no. It sounds crazy, but that's the core idea.
Yeah, Voss and Raz present this truly counterintuitive warning. A simple yes can be fake politeness, a superficial agreement that masks deeper resistance or misunderstanding. But no, that word we usually try to avoid, that seemingly confrontational and negative word often serves to protect the person saying it, to clarify their position, and paradoxically to create a real opportunity for genuine, honest dialogue.
It's a twist because we're always taught, get to yes.
Exactly. It goes against everything we're typically taught about being agreeable and aiming for positive affirmations in communication. A forced or easy yes often means they haven't truly bought in, or maybe they're just trying to end the conversation quickly. A no, on the other hand, is definitive. It tells you precisely where they stand, it establishes their boundaries clearly, and it forces them to clarify why it's a no, which is invaluable information for you.
And this idea, it has roots in real-world experience, too.
Definitely. It's deeply rooted in post-9/11 negotiation refinements, particularly when quick, unexamined yeses from various international parties led to bad deals or unfulfilled promises in complex geopolitical situations.
When yes didn't really mean yes.
Exactly. It also echoes ancient bargaining practices in bustling markets around the world, where a definitive no often signaled not the end of the negotiation, but the real start of it.
Wow.
It forced both sides to truly engage with each other's needs and limits. And in many cultures, let's be honest, a direct no can be considered rude.
Sure.
So people might offer a yes that actually means maybe, or I'll think about it, or even just a polite no simply to save face and avoid direct confrontation. The FBI learned this the hard way. A yes that isn't genuine or backed by true commitment is far worse, far more dangerous than a clear, authentic no.
Okay, so psychologically, why is no so powerful then? Seems counterintuitive.
Well, from a broader perspective, the authors provide insightful analysis, saying no gives the other person a profound sense of control and safety.
Control.
because it allows them to establish a boundary. It's empowering for them to say, this far and no further. And paradoxically, once someone feels in control of their ability to say no, they often become much more open to hearing your perspective and engaging in true collaborative dialogue.
Because they feel safe.
They feel safe, they feel respected. When you allow someone the space to say no, you establish a boundary, yes, but you also subtly communicate that you respect their autonomy, that you're not trying to railroad them. This builds respect and genuine trust. Think about how often in daily U.S. life we shy away from saying no, or even inviting a no, just for fear of seeming rude or uncooperative.
Yeah, we avoid conflict.
We avoid conflict, and in doing so, we miss opportunities for clearer, more honest communication. Maybe a friend asks to borrow money and you're really uncomfortable, but you say yes just to avoid that awkwardness.
Right.
And it leads to eventual resentment, maybe a damaged relationship. An invited no early on could have actually preserved the friendship by setting clear, honest boundaries.
Okay, so how do we use this? The key isn't just to be negative, right?
No, absolutely not. The key idea isn't to be contrarian or aggressive. It's to use no strategically to refine offers and understand limits without causing offense.
How do you do that?
You can phrase questions that skillfully invite a no. Questions like, is it out of the question to? Or are you against, or would you be opposed to?
Ah, framing it negatively.
Exactly. These questions allow them to protect their position, to articulate their limits by saying no or confirming it's okay, and it still opens up a deeper conversation about why. The distinction between an aggressive no and a clarifying no is crucial.
The goal is understanding, not confrontation.
Precisely. You're not trying to provoke them. You're trying to understand their boundaries and the real issues that truly matter to them, the things they won't compromise on.
Okay, let's take that 2025 e-commerce example again. Negotiating with a U.S. supplier for a big order.
Okay.
If they say yes, way too quickly to your initial request for a price cut. Big red flag. It might mean they're not serious, or maybe they're planning to cut corners somewhere else, or perhaps they just have hidden inventory they desperately need to move.
So you need to test that, yes.
Right. You test it by inviting a no. You could probe with questions like, so are you saying that's the absolute lowest price possible, even with the current supply chain crunches we're seeing from those global events?
Challenging the yes gently.
Gently. Or, is there any reason you wouldn't be able to improve that offer further? Perhaps maybe on the payment terms or the delivery speed if the price is firm? By inviting a no here, you might reveal crucial wiggle room. Maybe it relates to their inventory levels, maybe shipping costs, maybe competitor pricing they're trying to beat, or even their desire to secure you as a long-term partner. Information that a simple, superficial yes would have completely obscured.
It allows for a deeper, more honest negotiation.
Exactly. You uncover their actual constraints and capacities, leading to a much more robust and reliable deal in the end.
So this raises the question, can no actually strengthen trust? It feels weird saying that.
It does feel weird, but Voss argues absolutely. A genuine no that leads to clarification and an honest articulation of boundaries is far more valuable and ultimately more trust-building than a superficial yes that leads nowhere, or worse, to unfulfilled promises.
Because it signals authenticity.
It signals authenticity, honesty, and a willingness to engage in real problem-solving rather than just trying to placate you. Think of that U.S. child saying no to a chore again.
Okay.
Instead of immediate punishment, a parent might ask, no, you can't do it, because that little shift opens a dialogue. Maybe it reveals the child is overwhelmed, tired, or has another pressing commitment.
And you get to a shared solution.
You get to a shared solution, a much better outcome than a forced, resented yes that builds zero understanding. Okay, if you're starting to rethink every yes and no you've ever heard, then you're truly getting into this deep dive. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Next up, we'll uncover the 2 magic words that Voss says can immediately transform any negotiation. All right, Chapter 5. Trigger the 2 words that immediately transform any negotiation. That's right. This is a big one.
It really is, the payoff moment.
Voss describes this nail-biting Haitian kidnapping situation. He's engaging intently with the captor. He doesn't just listen passively. He meticulously summarizes the captor's perspective. He reflects back their worldview, their fears, their demands, their perceived injustices, everything he's heard.
He's painting their picture back to them.
Exactly. And he keeps doing this, refining his understanding and his articulation of their position until the captor finally utters those incredibly powerful, almost magic words. That's right.
That's right. Not, you're right.
No, specifically, that's right. And Voss says that's the precise moment Trust is sealed the moment genuine connection is truly made, and the negotiation can finally progress towards a resolution. It's a profound psychological breakthrough.
Yeah, Voss and Rass spotlight, that's right, as the ultimate empathy jackpot. It's a phrase that signals genuine understanding and alignment, and as you said, it's far superior to, "you're right."
Why is "you're right" not as good? It sounds
Yeah.
positive.
It sounds positive, but paradoxically, "you're right" can often shut down a conversation. It can imply that the other person is surrendering or conceding a point or maybe just being agreeable to end the discussion.
Ah, okay. It's like, okay, you win this point.
Exactly. That's right, however, signifies true, deep understanding from their perspective. When someone says "you're right," they might feel like you've won, or they're conceding, which can trigger defensiveness or even feel a bit patronizing.
Hmm.
But "that's right" means they feel truly understood. Their perspective has been accurately reflected, their internal reality validated. It's a statement of profound internal alignment. They feel seen and heard in a way that builds bridges instantly.
And this technique, is it another evolution from those earlier methods?
It is. It's seen as a refinement that emerged from 2000's international operations, building upon those broader empathy trends that became really paramount in diplomacy after the Cold War.
Right, moving beyond just power plays.
Exactly. As nations moved from pure power plays to more nuanced global relations, understanding the other side's perspective became absolutely crucial, not just for hostage rescue, but for fostering international stability.
Hmm.
This technique really represents a significant shift from purely transactional negotiation focused solely on the exchange of goods or concessions to relational negotiation.
Relational negotiation.
Yeah, where the quality of the connection you build, the rapport, the understanding becomes a primary factor in the success of the negotiation itself. It's not just about what you get, but the quality of the interaction and the understanding you build, which often dictates the longevity and the actual success of any agreement reached.
Okay, so why is hearing, that's right, so incredibly powerful?
Yeah.
What's the psychological mechanism?
Well, the authors provide insightful analysis. That's right. Unequivocally confirms genuine understanding. It tells you, the negotiator, that the other person feels truly heard and accurately represented.
It's like a confirmation light goes on.
Exactly. And this pivotal moment shifts the entire dynamic of the negotiation. It moves it from a potential conflict or even this a neutral exchange to a genuinely collaborative effort. That moment of validation creates deep psychological safety.
Psychological safety.
Okay. It allows the other party to lower their guard, shed their defensiveness, and engage much more authentically. It's a powerful signal that you're not just trying to win or even just listen politely, but that you're genuinely trying to comprehend their reality.
And from that point,
From that point, they're far more likely to open up, share more information, maybe even black swans, which we'll get to, and be much more receptive to your proposals because you've proven you grasp their perspective and their core concerns.
so, okay, this sounds great, but how do you get someone to say that's right? You can't just ask them to say it.
Chuckles. No, you definitely can't. The key is you have to earn those two words.
Earn them. How?
You achieve, that's right, by diligently summarizing the other person's feelings, their arguments, their situation, their stated and unstated concerns in a way that resonates deeply and accurately with them.
So it's about summarizing their world back to them.
Precisely. You're not agreeing with their demands or their specific solutions, remember. But you are accurately reflecting their emotional and logical landscape as they perceive it. Crucially, you're avoiding arguments and instead demonstrating profound, active listening that feeds back their world to them.
And summarizing isn't just repeating words.
No, absolutely not. It's not just regurgitating. It's distilling the essence of their message, including their underlying emotions and motivations, and presenting it back to them in a concise, accurate way. It shows you've processed and understood, not just passively heard.
Okay, let's try that 2025 U.S. venture funding pitch example again.
Yeah.
In Boston or Austin, maybe.
Okay, high pressure.
An investor raises several pointed concerns about your startup scalability, your go-to-market strategy, your timing, especially with all the AI boom uncertainties.
Standard VC concerns.
Right. Instead of defensively arguing against each point, which is the instinct,
Very common instinct.
you pause and you recap their concerns, demonstrating your comprehension. You might say something like, okay, so it sounds like you're worried about our ability to scale quickly enough to capture significant market share, especially with the rapid pace of AI development changing the landscape.
Yeah.
And you're questioning the timing of our entry into this competitive space, perhaps seeing it as already crowded Or maybe even too early, is that right?
Putting their concerns into your own words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you hear that invaluable, "That's right," you know you've unlocked a profound level of trust.
That's the moment.
That's the moment they feel genuinely understood, and now they are truly ready to hear your solutions, your unique advantages, your risk mitigation strategies. They're far more likely to commit because you've proven you grasped their perspective and their core concerns first.
And just to reiterate that subtle but crucial difference, "you're right" versus "that's right." "You're right" can be dismissive, right? A concession maybe just to end the conversation. Or even a subtle way for the other person to feel superior, like they've won a point against you.
Yeah, it can feel like giving up.
It can. "That's right," however, is an affirmation of comprehension. It's actually an invitation for more engagement, and it signals deep alignment. It signifies that your internal map of their world matches theirs.
Okay, think of maybe a U.S. employee giving feedback to their manager.
Good example.
If the manager just says, "You're right, I should have finished that project sooner," that's one thing. It's kind of closed.
Yeah, end of story.
But if the employee summarizes the manager's likely pressures first, maybe saying, "It sounds like the deadline was tighter than anticipated because of those unforeseen technical glitches with the legacy system, and you also encountered those unexpected resource reallocations last week." And the manager says, "That's right."
Now you have an opening.
Exactly. The latter invites real problem solving and deeper understanding of the actual constraints, rather than just superficial agreement or blame.
Wow.
The power of just two simple words. Okay, we're really hitting our stride now. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive. Next up, get ready to learn how to actually bend reality itself in your negotiations. Sounds dramatic.
It does sound dramatic, but it's Chapter 6, Bend Their Reality-Shaping Perceptions.
Okay.
Voss flashes back to a deadline-driven standoff in Ecuador. Time is ticking, pressure is mounting intensely on everyone involved. And Voss, faced with what appear to be these rigid, non-negotiable demands, skillfully starts to warp the perceptions of time and fairness to gain crucial leverage.
Warp perceptions, how?
He doesn't just state his case. He frames the situation in such a way that makes his offer, his timeline, his proposed solutions seem not just reasonable, but almost inevitable, maybe even the only truly fair path forward.
So it's about framing.
It's powerfully about framing. This dramatic scenario reveals how perception, not just objective fact, fundamentally shapes negotiation outcomes.
Voss and Roz teach you how to skillfully bend these perceptions of fairness and deadlines to your favor.
Right. And crucially, it's not about outright deception or manipulation. It's about framing the situation in a way that makes your proposed path seem like the most logical, the most equitable, maybe even the only fair option available under the circumstances.
So it relies on understanding psychological biases.
Exactly. It involves a deep understanding of the cognitive biases people hold, and then gently guiding their perspective. For instance, what one person considers fair can be entirely different from another's view, right?
Totally subjective.
Totally subjective. And these subjective perceptions are ripe for subtle ethical influence. The way we frame a situation significantly impacts how it's perceived, and Voss shows us how to leverage that ethically.
Does this have historical roots too? It sounds like something negotiators might have always done.
It does. It has historical roots in, say, 1980s economic negotiations, particularly during major union strikes or international trade deals, where deadlines and the perception of equity were often used as strategic weapons to force concessions. But Voss elevates it from maybe a crude tactic to a much more sophisticated psychological tool. It's about understanding that the perception of time, urgency, and equity are inherently subjective experiences. They're not objective facts. Right. And because they're subjective, they can be skillfully influenced through precise communication rather than just accepting them as immutable objective realities. The subjective nature means there's always room to subtly reshape them in the other person's mind, making your proposals appear more attractive or perhaps less costly than alternatives.
Okay, so why does this bending reality work so effectively? What's the core principle?
It powerfully leverages a core human bias. Loss aversion.
Loss aversion. Okay, explain that.
Loss aversion means humans are generally far more motivated to avoid a loss than they are to achieve an equivalent gain. We feel the pain of losing $100 much more intensely than the pleasure of gaining $100.
Right, that makes sense.
So Voss teaches you to subtly show the other party what they stand to lose by not accepting your offer or by walking away from the table. This creates a powerful intrinsic incentive for them to move towards your desired outcome, because the fear of loss is a stronger motivator than the prospect of gain.
It's like setting up a consequence for inaction.
Exactly. It's dramatic, like a time bomb ticking, where you cleverly control the clock, making them viscerally feel the pressure of potential losses if they don't act or if they choose a different path. This highlights how our cognitive biases make us incredibly susceptible to framing effects and the perception of scarcity or urgency.
Frame it as a loss, and it carries more weight.
Much more psychological weight than framing it as an equivalent potential gain.
Okay, so practically, how do we apply this? What are the key techniques?
A key idea Voss introduces is to anchor high.
Anchor high, meaning
Make an extreme yet ultimately defensible initial offer or request. If you're selling, ask high. If you're buying, offer low. This sets a psychological reference point or anchor for the entire negotiation.
okay.
And it makes all subsequent, more reasonable offers or concessions seem far more appealing by simple comparison to that initial extreme anchor.
It shifts the whole playing field.
It shifts the perceived range of acceptable outcomes. This is that powerful psychological principle of anchoring. The first piece of information offered tends to heavily influence all subsequent judgments and offers. If your initial anchor is too timid, too close to the middle,
You leave money on the table.
you leave money on the table, or you anchor the whole negotiation too low. By starting high or low, you strategically expand the perceived range, pulling the other side towards your desired zone without them necessarily realizing how much they've moved from their initial position.
Okay, anchoring high.
Mhm.
What else? Voss mentioned something about non-round numbers.
Yes. Building on anchoring, why use non-round numbers for your anchors and offers? Voss suggests using precise non-round numbers like, say, $19,750 instead of a flat $20,000,
Why does that matter?
because it communicates that you've done your homework, that your offer is carefully calculated based on something specific, not just a casual guess pulled out of thin air.
Ah, it sounds more legitimate.
Exactly. It lends an air of legitimacy, authority, and meticulousness to your offer, making your anchor seem more credible and less arbitrary. It makes it harder for them to dismiss.
Okay, let's use that 2025 U.S. freelance designer example again. Client dragging their feet on deadlines.
Okay, common problem.
You can bend their reality by highlighting the tangible cost of their delay using loss aversion and precision. Instead of just saying you're late, which is accusatory, you could frame it, look, it seems like we're seriously risking missing the critical launch window in this fast-evolving sustainable tech market if we don't finalize this design by Friday. Losing that initial buzz and early market positioning could mean, based on industry data, maybe a precise 15% reduction in early adopter engagement. That ultimately costs us, and crucially you, significant traction and potential revenue in the long run. How can we work together right now to make sure we hit that mark?
Wow. Okay, so you've anchored the cost of delay with a precise number of 15%.
Right.
You've introduced a negative consequence tied to them, loss of traction and revenue, making their missed deadline feel like their impending financial loss. And you've made your timeline seem inherently fair and mutually beneficial to avoid that loss.
Exactly. You're bending their perception of the situation and the urgency.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, as Voss points out. By skillfully bending their reality this way, you're guiding them towards a choice that ultimately benefits you, getting the project done on time, but you're doing it while making them feel like they're making their own independent decision entirely on their own terms to avoid a negative outcome.
It's subtle persuasion.
It's subtle persuasion at its finest. They feel empowered to solve the problem rather than feeling coerced or blamed. Think of that U.S. parent offering a child the choice, peas or carrots for dinner, instead of just dictating, eat your vegetable.
Right. The illusion of choice.
The child feels a sense of control and choice, but the parent still achieves the core goal of getting them to eat a vegetable. You are shaping the menu of choices strategically rather than dictating a single outcome.
Okay, that is mind-bending stuff. You're well on your way to becoming a negotiation wizard if you can master that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive. Coming up next, we'll learn how to create that illusion of control for the other side, using something Voss calls calibrated questions. All right, Chapter 7. Create the illusion of control, the power of calibrated questions. Voss takes us to a chaotic Colombian hostage crisis. Intense demands, highly emotional captors.
Another high-pressure scenario.
Absolutely. And instead of issuing commands or getting into a shouting match trying to assert dominance, Voss asks a simple yet profoundly strategic question. Something like, How can we make this work?
How can we make this work? That sounds almost weak, like you're giving up control.
It sounds like it, but Voss argues it's the opposite. It isn't a sign of weakness or indecision. It's a strategic masterstroke. He's letting the kidnappers feel completely in charge, feel like they're driving the conversation,
Okay.
while he is subtly steering them toward a viable, perhaps face-saving, mutually agreeable solution. It's about giving them the feeling of control.
Ah, the illusion of control. Hence the chapter title.
Exactly. This pivotal moment showcases the power of what Voss calls calibrated questions.
Calibrated questions. Okay, what defines them?
These are open-ended questions specifically designed to guide the other party towards a desired outcome without ever dictating terms or making direct demands.
So they're not just any open-ended questions.
No, they're strategically calibrated. They make the other person feel like they're the ones coming up with the answers and the solutions themselves.
Oh, fostering ownership.
Precisely. It fosters a deep sense of ownership and buy-in. When someone feels they have discovered the solution, that it's their idea, they are far more likely to commit to it and actually follow through.
Because it's internal motivation, not external pressure.
Exactly. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful shift in psychological ownership of the solution.
And where did this technique come from? Another evolution.
Yes, it evolved significantly from those 1990s crisis talks, where rigid demands often just met rigid resistance, frequently leading to dangerous stalemates.
Right, headbutting doesn't work.
No, it draws inspiration from ancient Socratic methods,
Ah, Socrates.
where questions are used not just to seek information, but to stimulate critical thinking and lead individuals to discover answers and insights on their own. It's about planting seeds of thought, not dictating the harvest.
So it's about guiding their thinking process.
Right. The shift was crucial. Instead of asking, will you do X, which often invites a simple yes-no and potential confrontation, calibrated questions encourage collaborative problem-solving. This adaptation of Socratic questioning, used for centuries in philosophy and education, proved invaluable for de-escalation and finding common ground even in the most high-stakes negotiations.
Okay, so why do these calibrated questions work so well? What's the analysis?
They fundamentally empower the other party. That's the core. They gently force them to think critically about the problem at hand and articulate potential solutions from their side.
So you make them do the work. Slight laugh. In a way, yes. But this process reveals their underlying assumptions, their hidden constraints, their true priorities, providing you, the negotiator, with invaluable intelligence. And it does this while simultaneously making them feel valued, respected, and crucially, in control of the process. It's engaging, like interactive storytelling, where they feel like they're writing the next chapter, but you've cleverly given them the compelling prompt and the initial framework.
So by asking how or what, you're subtly making them do the heavy lifting of problem solving.
Yes, which in turn makes them feel much more invested in the eventual solution because they feel they contributed to its creation. It fundamentally shifts the dynamic from a you versus me argument to a collaborative, how do we solve this problem partnership?
Okay, so how do we actually phrase these questions? You mentioned how and what.
Exactly. The key idea is to strategically start your calibrated questions with how or what. These words are inherently non-confrontational.
Because they invite explanatory answers, rich with detail and process, rather than simple yes or no responses. And critically, Voss says you must consciously avoid starting questions with why.
Avoid why, chuckles, sorry, couldn't resist.
Chuckles. Right. Because why often sounds accusatory. It immediately puts the other person on the defensive, making them feel like they need to justify their past actions or beliefs, which tends to shut down open dialogue.
Ah, okay. Why did you do that? It sounds like blame.
It does. The linguistic psychology of how and what questions is that they imply a giant problem-solving effort. They focus on process, substance, and finding a path forward together. How will you manage this focuses on a future plan. What's preventing you from achieving that goal focuses on obstacles without assigning blame.
Okay, let's try that 2025 U.S. trade talks example again. Negotiating with a foreign supplier about new tariffs or major supply chain disruption.
Okay, complex situation.
Instead of demanding, you need to absorb these new tariffs, which, let's face it, will likely be met with strong resistance and defensiveness.
Yeah, probably a flat no.
Right. You could ask calibrated questions like, how do we handle these unexpected tariffs in a way that allows both of us to maintain profitability and also ensure timely delivery of these critical components to our U.S. customers?
Framing it as a shared problem.
Exactly. Or, What would a fair and workable resolution look like from your perspective that addresses these new logistical challenges for both of our organizations?
Hmm.
These questions invite them to actively participate in finding a solution, making them feel like a valued contributor, not just someone receiving demands.
And in doing so, they reveal their concerns, capabilities, limits.
Precisely. You get more information to work with, and you increase their investment in the eventual outcome because they helped craft it.
Okay, but this brings up that ethical question again.
Hmm?
Is creating an illusion of control manipulative? Sounds a bit sneaky.
It's a fair question. Voss argues strongly that it's not deception in a malicious sense, but rather an ethical and highly effective way to leverage human psychology for mutual benefit. By allowing the other person to feel genuinely empowered and in control, you dramatically reduce their natural defensiveness. You open them up to considering solutions they might otherwise resist if they felt they were being told what to do or forced into a corner.
So it's guiding, not coercing.
It's about guiding and facilitating, not coercing or tricking. You're harnessing their natural desire for autonomy, which is a very powerful human drive, to lead them towards a positive and constructive outcome, ideally one that benefits both sides.
Okay, that makes sense. Like that project manager example, asking their team, what steps can we take to avoid missing this critical deadline?
Right.
Instead of the accusatory blame focus, why are we going to miss this deadline?
Exactly. It shifts the whole dynamic instantly from blame and defensiveness to proactive, collaborative problem solving. It makes the team feel responsible for finding the solution, not just for causing the problem.
Okay, feeling more in control of your conversations already just by learning this. Good. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive. Next up, we're talking about the crucial step, guaranteeing execution, and how to spot if someone is not truly committed to the deal, even after they say yes.
Right. Chapter 8. Guarantee execution, the trust test. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Voss describes a scene post-agreement, maybe in the immediate aftermath of a high-stakes New York siege. The deal is supposedly done, right? Everyone breathes a sigh of relief.
You'd think so.
But Voss isn't packing up yet. He's still carefully listening. He's scrutinizing word counts, analyzing specific commitment.
Word counts? Really?
Yeah, subtle linguistic cues. Because he knows, from hard experience, that an agreement isn't worth the paper it's printed on, or the breath used to speak it, if it's not truly going to be executed.
Yeah.
He's diligently spotting potential lies, or maybe just a lack of true commitment, through these subtle cues in their language and behavior after the supposed deal is made.
So the negotiation isn't over when you get the yes.
Not even close, according to Voss.
Yeah.
He and Roz emphasize this crucial point. Simply reaching an agreement is not the end goal. They focus intensely on this critical phase of guaranteeing follow-through and spotting any potential deception or lack of genuine commitment.
Because a verbal agreement is just words.
Unless there's a clear, actionable path to execution. So many negotiations succeed at the table, everyone shakes hands, feels good.
Yeah, the champagne moment.
Right. Only to completely fall apart during implementation because maybe the commitment wasn't genuine or the plan wasn't solid or hidden resistances emerge later.
Mm-hmm.
This final stage is absolutely crucial for translating those promises into reality and, importantly, identifying true buy-in. It's sense like that final reveal in a thriller movie, uncovering whether the happy ending is real or just, mirage.
And this focus, it comes from specific FBI techniques.
Yes, this emphasis on execution assurance comes directly from advanced FBI lie detection and behavioral analysis techniques that were significantly developed post-2000s. Understanding nonverbal cues, micro-expressions, subtle linguistic patterns, these became central to assessing genuine intent, particularly in counterterrorism and complex criminal investigations, where lives depended on knowing if someone was telling the truth about their intentions.
So it's more than just listening to the words.
Oh, much more. It's about observing how it's said, what's not said, and detecting inconsistencies between their words and their implied actions or their body language. The psychological basis of detecting deception, looking for those fleeting microexpressions, analyzing speech patterns for anomalies or stress indicators, identifying inconsistencies in their narrative, and most importantly, the power of asking how when commitments are made. These are all vital tools in this crucial execution phase.
So from a bigger picture view, an agreement without a plan is just what?
It's effectively just a wish, or maybe a polite way to defer the real decision. The real value, the true success of any negotiation, lies in turning those promises into tangible action. And this process of drilling down into the execution details is often where the true intentions and the actual level of commitment of the other party are finally revealed. It's that final tense reveal we talked about. Think about how many seemingly successful negotiations in business or even just planning a family vacation fall apart at this stage because the execution details were never properly ironed out or true commitment was never really ascertained.
It's a very common and costly pitfall.
Hugely costly. And Voss teaches us how to meticulously try and avoid it.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we ensure follow-through in our own negotiations?
A key idea is to repeatedly use how questions, specifically aimed at implementation details.
More how questions. Okay.
Yes, but targeted differently now. Once an agreement seems to be reached, instead of just saying, great, and moving on.
Which feels like the natural thing to do.
It does. But instead, you immediately pivot to asking, okay, great, so how will you implement that? Or how will we ensure this actually rolls out by next month as we planned? Or how will we measure progress on this agreement to make sure we're on track?
Getting into the weeds.
Exactly. These targeted how questions force the other party, and you, frankly, to think through the practical, granular steps involved. And this often reveals any hidden roadblocks, resource gaps, or maybe just a subtle lack of genuine intent that wasn't apparent in the initial, more general agreement.
So how questions for execution ensure concrete plans?
Yes, they ensure concrete plans get articulated, they identify the resources needed, they clarify specific responsibilities, and they create a roadmap for accountability.
And Voss also mentions getting multiple agreements, the rule of 3.
Yes, he suggests aiming for what he calls 3 yeses, or affirmations, specifically about the implementation details. This isn't just about getting a general nod of agreement to the main deal. It's about getting multiple specific confirmations about the practical steps, the timeline, the resources, who does what by when.
Why 3 times?
The theory is the more time someone verbally commits to the detailed plan, the more psychologically invested they become in seeing it through. It makes them less likely to back out later because they've affirmed the how multiple times.
Okay, let's try that 2025 U.S. tech partnership example. 2 companies collaborating on new software.
Right. After the initial terms are agreed upon, the what, you pivot to the how, you might ask. Okay, sounds good. So how will your engineering team integrate with ours for the initial development phase, practically speaking? That's maybe the first how agreement.
Okay.
Then, and what's the precise process for shared quality assurance testing and bug reporting across our different platforms? Maybe that's the second. And finally, and how will we communicate progress daily or weekly and troubleshoot issues quickly for our remote collaborations, especially given our different time zones and maybe different agile methodologies? That's the third.
Drilling down into logistics.
Exactly. By probing with these focused how questions, you can quickly catch potential issues like unclear responsibilities, significant resource gaps on their side, or maybe just a general lack of enthusiasm for the actual work involved, long before these problems derail the entire project months down the line.
And Voss also says to watch for inconsistencies during this phase.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting for the astute observer. He teaches you to pay close attention to subtle inconsistencies. If someone's words about implementation don't quite match their enthusiasm level, or their body language seems off, or their vocal tone changes, or if their answers contradict earlier statements they made, these are significant red flags. These are often crucial indicators that their commitment isn't as solid as their initial yes appeared.
Like that job candidate example.
Exactly. A U.S. job candidate enthusiastically accepts the offer verbally, sounds thrilled. But then when you ask for concrete details about their start date or their relocation plans or providing references, they become noticeably vague or evasive.
The words say yes, but the details say maybe not.
Precisely. The fuzzy details hint at an underlying hesitancy or maybe a lack of genuine readiness, which requires further gentle probing using maybe more calibrated questions or labels. Okay, mastery execution. That's where deals become reality, not just talk. Like, subscribe, and share to keep getting these game-changing insights. Up next, it's finally time to talk tough. How to bargain hard using the Ackerman method without losing the human connection you've worked so hard to build.
All right, Chapter 9. Bargain hard the Ackerman method. This is where Voss gets into the nitty-gritty of price negotiation.
Yeah, the part many people dread.
Absolutely. He describes a fierce Middle East haggle, a context where traditional bargaining is not just a tactic, but really an expected art form. And Voss employs a specific methodical approach here. He doesn't just throw out a single number and hope for the best or get into an emotional shouting match.
No, what does he do?
He uses a calculated, multi-step strategy he calls the Ackerman method. He starts with a precise anchor, then he makes strategic incremental concessions, always with diminishing returns, and crucially, always keeping an eye on the bigger picture and maintaining rapport.
A structured approach to haggling.
Exactly. It's a disciplined, yet still empathetic approach to aggressive bargaining.
And Voss and Raz directly tackle this idea of aggressive bargaining, showing you how to do it effectively and assertively, but without sacrificing the human connection or the rapport you've hopefully built up using the previous techniques.
Right, because that's the fear, isn't it? That if you bargain hard, you'll destroy the relationship.
Totally. It's about being strategic and firm, yes, but crucially, not disrespectful or abrasive. Many people shy away from hard bargaining precisely because they fear damaging relationships, or maybe they simply don't know how to do it without feeling like a jerk. The Ackerman method provides a clear framework for how to push for your best possible outcome while still maintaining a positive interaction.
How does it manage that?
Because you're doing it with respect, with transparency about your limits, signal to the method, and using a structured approach that both sides can understand, even if they don't like your numbers. It feels less personal, more procedural.
And this method, does it have historical roots, too? Or is it purely a Voss invention?
It definitely has deep historical roots. You can see echoes of it from ancient bizarre traditions found across many cultures where haggling was not only expected but admired as a display of skill and market knowledge.
Right.
All the way to modern corporate M&A deals and international diplomacy. Voss essentially refines these age-old practices with sophisticated psychological principles, making them applicable in virtually any high-stakes negotiation, regardless of the cultural context.
So it provides a kind of universal framework.
Exactly. While cultural variations in bargaining are immense, some cultures expect really aggressive back and forth, others prefer a much more subtle dance. The Ackerman method provides a universal, psychologically sound framework that respects the other party, while systematically moving towards your goals with precision and control.
Okay, so why does this structured Ackerman method work so well?
The authors provide insightful analysis. It systematically moves towards your target price, while simultaneously making the other party feel heard, engaged, and, importantly, that they're getting a fair deal because they had to work for it. They feel like they extracted concessions from you.
Ah, they feel like they won something, too.
Right. It powerfully leverages the psychological principle of reciprocity. They feel a subtle obligation to also make concessions as you make calculated ones. And it fosters a strong perception of fairness through its structured, predictable, yet firm approach.
So it controls the tempo.
It controls the tempo. It's a dramatic showdown, perhaps, but one where you control the rhythm and the increments, ensuring you don't overpay or undersell based on emotion. This structured approach helps prevent those emotional overreactions that can so easily derail negotiations, keeping the discussion grounded in numbers and principles, even when underlying feelings are inevitably involved. It removes a lot of the subjectivity that often leads to resentment or frustration in haggling.
Okay, so how do we integrate this? What are the practical steps for using the Ackerman method?
Well, one key idea Voss emphasizes first is to understand different negotiation styles. Before you even start Ackerman, try to figure out, are you dealing with an assertive type, an analyst, or an accommodator?
Why does that matter?
Because tailoring your presentation of the Ackerman method to their specific style can significantly increase your success.
Okay, can you quickly define those styles?
Sure, roughly. The assertive type wants to win, needs to feel dominant. The analyst wants data, logic, proof, time to think. The accommodator prioritizes the relationship, wants harmony, avoids conflict.
Okay, so how do you tailor Ackerman?
For an assertive type, you present the method as a strong, confident, winning strategy, emphasizing your firmness. For an analyst, you emphasize the meticulous calculation, the fairness based on data, the precision of your numbers. For an accommodator, you frame the method as a structured, fair path to finding a mutually agreeable solution that respects both sides.
So you present the same method differently based on who you're talking to.
Exactly. Identifying their style helps you present your Ackerman offers in a way that truly resonates with their psychological needs and priorities.
Okay, got it. And within the method itself, Voss again mentions using odd numbers and adding non-cash offers.
Yes. How do you make your offers even more persuasive within this methodical approach? First, Voss again suggests using precise, non-round numbers for your offers. For example, offering $97,500 instead of around $100,000.
Same reason as before. Precision suggests calculation.
Exactly. It suggests careful calculation, deep thought, not just pulling a number out of thin air. It lends credibility. Second, be creative by strategically adding non-cash offers or terms into the mix, especially near the end of the sequence.
Like what?
Things like faster delivery, more flexible payment terms, an extended service agreement, maybe future collaboration opportunities, or even public testimonials or referrals. These things increase the perceived value of your offer without changing the core price you're holding firm on.
Okay, let's use that 2025 U.S. real estate example again. Hot market, surging prices.
Yep.
You're buying.
Right. Instead of just offering a round number and getting into a bidding war, you employ the Ackerman method systematically.
Step 1. Anchor aggressively, but defensively. You offer a precise, slightly lower than asking price. Say the house is listed at $520,000, you might offer $497,250, and you justify it with recent, meticulous market comparables you've researched from the area. So it's a strong, precise anchor.
Okay.
Step 2. Make calibrated offers with diminishing increments. If the seller counters at, say, $515,000, your next offer isn't just splitting the difference. It might be a precise $505,000. If they counter again at $512,000, maybe your next is $511,500. Each offer is precisely calculated, slightly less than their counter, but also a meaningful, precise step up from your previous one. Crucially, the increments get smaller as you approach your target price, signaling you're reaching your limit.
The diminishing increments signal the end is near.
Exactly. It tells them you're running out of room. Step 3. Add non-cash items strategically. As you get close to your final price, maybe you offer a quick close, which sellers often value, or you agree to waive a specific contingency, like a minor inspection item, that seems important to the seller.
While sticking to your price point.
While sticking firmly to your final, precise price point, say that $511,500. This shows you're bargaining hard on the core price, yes, but you're also being flexible and understanding of their non-monetary needs. It increases the total value of your offer without altering the crucial cash figure. It creates a perception of generosity and problem-solving, even when you're driving a very hard bargain.
And this whole process requires patience, right?
Absolutely. This is where the Ackerman method also instills a crucial lesson in patience. It's a deliberate dance, not a reckless sprint to the finish line. By consistently giving specific, incremental offers, you signal to the other side that you're serious, you've done your homework, and you're not going to be easily swayed or rushed into a bad decision. You're demonstrating respect for the process, for the numbers, and for their position, even as you firmly and methodically push for your own desired outcome.
Like that contractor example.
Exactly. Think of a U.S. contractor negotiating a bid for a major construction project. They systematically present their costs and value, incrementally adjusting bids based on feedback and scope changes, rather than just throwing out a single take-it-or-leave-it number and hoping it sticks. This structured patience builds trust and ultimately leads to a more solid, well-understood deal.
Okay, bargaining hard just got a whole lot smarter and maybe less scary. Don't miss out on these insights. Like, subscribe, and share this deep dive. Finally, we'll uncover the ultimate game changer in negotiation, finding the black swan.
All right, the final chapter, chapter 10, find the black swan, uncovering the game changers. This feels like the ultimate level of negotiation skill. It really is presented that way. We reach the climax here, often in a negotiation that seems straightforward, maybe even wrapping up, but there's a surprise twist. Voss, with his acute perception honed over decades of high-stakes work, consistently emphasizes the need to uncover hidden black swans.
Black swans, like the unexpected event idea.
Exactly. Those unexpected, potentially game-changing pieces of information, often unspoken fears, hidden desires, unknown constraints that can completely shift the outcome of the entire negotiation. It's the ultimate twist, revealing that there's always more than meets the eye, always more than is initially apparent on the surface.
So the best negotiators are always looking for what they don't know.
Precisely. Voss and Raz conclude their book by emphasizing this relentless hunt for black swans.
Yeah.
These are the pieces of information you don't know, the unknown unknowns.
Okay.
The hidden leverage, the unspoken motivations driving the other side, the critical detail that everyone else has overlooked that can completely redefine the negotiation landscape.
And these aren't always things people are hiding on purpose.
Often not. They aren't necessarily malicious secrets the other party is deliberately hiding. Sometimes they're simply unarticulated fears or deep desires that the other party might not even fully realize they have, or maybe they just don't know how to express them clearly. They can be blind spots in both your understanding and theirs. Uncovering them can unlock an entirely new, unexpected path forward.
And this concept, it comes from outside negotiation originally.
Yeah, it draws heavily from post-2010 uncertainty theories, particularly in economics and risk management, which highlight the profound, disproportionate impact of unpredictable, high-impact events, the actual black swans famously coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his book.
Right.
Voss brilliantly applies this concept to human interaction. He shows that even in highly structured, data-driven negotiations, human variables and hidden emotional factors can introduce completely unexpected, game-changing shifts.
It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? That no matter how prepared you think you are.
Right. No matter how much research you do, there are always unknown unknowns that can fundamentally alter the landscape and the potential outcomes. It fosters a crucial intellectual humility in the negotiation process. You should never assume you have all the relevant information.
So why is finding these black swans so crucial? What's the payoff?
Leveraging these surprises is presented as the ultimate skill in negotiation. Black swans can be either positive, maybe a hidden resource they have, a unique capability you didn't know about, or an unarticulated desire that aligns perfectly with something you can offer.
Okay.
Or they can be negative, a deep, unspoken fear driving their resistance, a significant constraint they haven't mentioned, or a vulnerability they're trying desperately to protect. Discovering these, either positive or negative, gives you immense leverage.
How so?
It gives you the ability to pivot the negotiation in entirely new directions, often towards a more mutually beneficial creative outcome that neither party initially even envisioned. It's a potentially thrilling finale to your negotiation journey, full of revelations that can transform the entire dynamic.
And being aware of the potential for black swans keeps you learning.
Absolutely. It fosters that intellectual humility and encourages continuous learning and every single negotiation. You never assume you have the full picture, and that very openness becomes your strength.
Okay, so how do we actually find these elusive black swans? It sounds difficult.
It requires diligence. The key idea Voss gives for finding black swans is to consistently and diligently look for inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies? Like what?
If something doesn't quite add up in what they're saying, if a statement they make directly contradicts earlier information they provided, if an emotion they express seems completely out of place or disproportionate given the context, these are all potential clues.
Little signals.
Little signals that might point towards a hidden, game-changing factor underneath the surface. You're essentially connecting dots that no one else, maybe even the other party themselves, sees.
And all the techniques we've already discussed help with this.
They're foundational. Active listening, mirroring, labeling, these are the tools you use to gather more information, build the trust needed for them to reveal more, and ultimately construct a more complete and accurate picture of their reality, which makes spotting those inconsistencies possible. It's like detective work for the human mind.
Okay, let's try that 2025 AI ethics talks example. A U.S. regulator negotiating with a big tech company about responsible AI deployment.
Very relevant, very complex.
The company's representatives consistently emphasize their speed to market, their commitment to innovation, the societal benefits, all the usual positive spin.
The standard corporate narrative.
Right. But you, the regulator, notice a subtle defensiveness. Maybe a slight shift in body language or tone whenever specific privacy concerns are brought up, despite their polished public statements claiming robust privacy safeguards.
An inconsistency between words and vibes.
Exactly. That inconsistency is a potential black swan. So by gently probing, maybe using calibrated questions like, what specific privacy challenges have you actually encountered in developing this particular model, and how have you addressed those technically, beyond just the policy statements?
Getting specific.
Getting specific. You might uncover a hidden fear of public backlash due to a past incident. Maybe a pending class action lawsuit they haven't disclosed. or perhaps a specific technical vulnerability in their data handling that they hadn't openly shared because it would damage their image or stock price.
Wow, that would change things.
Completely. This discovery could profoundly shift the entire outcome of the negotiation. It allows you to address the core hidden issue of the black swan, rather than just dancing around their surface-level demands for rapid deployment. It could lead to a much more robust, ethical, and ultimately safer agreement for everyone.
And this raises a final, maybe philosophical point. Does finding black swans mean the negotiation ever truly ends?
That's a deep question. In a way, Voss seems to suggest no. It emphasizes that every interaction, every conversation, every piece of information gathered is a continuous chance to learn, to uncover new insights, and to deepen your understanding of human behavior.
So you remain perpetually curious.
Exactly. It encourages you to remain perpetually curious and adaptable, always looking for that deeper layer, that unstated truth, that hidden motivation that could change everything. Like that startup founder example, who initially believes a potential investor's lack of interest is purely about their product or market fit.
Right.
Only to later realize, maybe through uncovering inconsistencies, that the true black swan was actually the investor's deep, unstated concern about the founder's own relentless 247 work-life balance, impacting their perceived long-term reliability and sustainability as a leader.
A hidden concern about the founder, not the idea.
Exactly. And realizing that completely shifted how the founder needed to approach building trust and addressing the real objection. That's the power of finding the black swan.
Wow. Okay, so connecting this all to the bigger picture, what we've unpacked today with Voss and Raz, drawing from never split the difference, it really isn't just a set of specialized tactics for, FBI agents or high-stakes business deals.
No, not at all.
It's really a complete paradigm shift for how you can understand and interact with people in virtually every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with, okay, maybe not a kidnapper, thankfully, but maybe a difficult colleague.
Yeah.
Or just deciding where to grab dinner with a friend.
Right. These principles apply everywhere.
They really do. From mastering that deep active listening and the subtle power of mirroring, to understanding the counterintuitive strength of no, to learning how to ethically bend reality through framing, and finally to uncovering those hidden, game-changing black swans, these are truly transformative tools. They fundamentally equip you to navigate the incredible complexities of human connection with far greater skill, profound empathy, and ultimately much more successful and satisfying outcomes.
So what does this all mean for you, our amazing listener, as you go about your day? Imagine how these principles could fundamentally transform your next salary negotiation. Imagine walking in feeling more prepared, more confident, more empathetic, or dramatically improve your family discussions, getting past the surface arguments to the real feelings underneath. Make your team meetings at work far more productive because you're actually hearing what's not being said. Or even revolutionize how you approach convincing a client to sign on the dotted line, not through pressure, but through genuine understanding and connection. It's certainly about getting what you want. Yes, the book doesn't shy away from that.
No, it's practical.
It's very practical. But maybe even more importantly, it's about building understanding and rapport that lasts, creating more robust and resilient relationships in the process. It's truly about learning to negotiate as if your life depended on it. Because in many ways, your most important relationships, your career trajectory, your financial well-being, and maybe even just your daily peace of mind, truly do depend on how well you navigate these constant human interactions.
That really puts it in perspective. And it leaves us with maybe a provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over as we wrap up.
Okay.
If every interaction is a negotiation, as Voss suggests, and every negotiation is a rich opportunity to practice and refine these human-centric skills we've talked about, what unrecognized black swans, what hidden motives, unspoken fears, or game-changing details might currently be hidden in your most familiar relationships? Or maybe even lurking in your most routine, everyday situations, just waiting to be discovered? And perhaps more importantly, how might finding them, truly understanding them, completely change everything you thought you knew about that situation or that person?
That's a powerful question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this really incredible deep dive into the human element of negotiation based on Never Split the Difference.
It's been fascinating.
We really hope you found these insights as transformative and enlightening as we have going through them. Remember to like this deep dive if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to BookPodCastZone for more profound explorations like this one.
Please do.
And please share with anyone you know who wants to master the art of conversation, persuasion, and just, well, getting along better with people. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep diving deep.